Dear delegates, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to the third edition of the world's largest FinTech Fest, Global FinTech Fest 2022. Organized by National Payments Corporation of India, Payments Council of India, and FinTech Convergence Council. This edition of the fest is supported by the Department of Economic Affairs, RBI, and IFSCA. My name is Amna Aggarwal, and I'm your host for this session. The topic of our discussion is Fintechs globally catering to the women's market, a report by Financial Alliance for a Woman, that is FAFW, and FinStep Asia, which is also the part of report launch. We are glad to have our esteemed speakers lined up for the same. So today with us we have Ms. Inez Murray, CEO, Financial Alliance for Women, Mr. Bilaal Essop, CEO, Edgefield Marketing, Ms. Siddhika Aggarwal, co-founder, Mahila Money. In order to moderate this session, we have a very handsome, very knowledgeable, and a very energetic moderator, Mr. Syed Musheer Ahmed, founder and managing director of FinStep Asia. So at the end, we'll be taking few questions as well. So please keep it ready. You can post your questions in the chat box section. Now, Mr. Munir, over to you.
Thank you, Amna, and welcome everybody to GFF 2022. Delighted to be supporting and participating alongside the wonderful work that the organizing team has done. Our panel today, as Amna mentioned, is going to be looking at how fintechs can cater better to the female economy. I have a distinguished panel with me, and I would like each of them to introduce themselves and their companies to us. Starting off with the main participant for the report, the Financial Alliance for Women, and their CEO, Miss Inez Murray. Sorry, I got mixed up with your name, despite knowing that so many times, Inez. Apologies. Over to you.
No problem. Thanks, Musheer. And hello, everybody. Delighted to share this report that we've produced this year, which profiles 25 leading fintechs that are targeting the female economy and are being very successful in doing that. And the reason we've profiled these organizations is that we want to share and spread the news about both the value of the female economy in terms of the potential market that's out there to be captured, as well as some of the solutions that these fintechs have deployed in order to get 50% female and above customers through their sales funnels. So I encourage you to read the report and ask us any questions you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you, Inez. And now I'd like Siddhika Aggarwal, who is the co-founder of Mahila Money, to introduce herself and what the company does.
Thanks, Musheer. Such a pleasure to be here. I'm Siddhika, as Musheer already introduced me, one of the co-founders at Mahila Money. Mahila Money is really a full-stack financial services digital platform for women across the country. This country has 1.4 billion people. About half of that is women. Our aim and mission is to make sure and enable women to contribute to the GDP of the country. And therefore, everything that we're building on Mahila Money is to not only raise awareness, provide access, but actually increase adoption of financial products and services across the ecosystem. So that's what we have about Mahila Money. I will talk more about it as we go on, Musheer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now over to Johannesburg. We have Bilaal Essop, who is the Chief Executive of Edgefield Marketing. Bilaal, over to you.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the session. I am the CEO of an organization called Edgefield Marketing. We do field marketing in field for the ICT, banking, and the lottery sector in South Africa. What I'm hoping to chat to everybody today about is the resources we've used in our acquisition drive for Time Bank in particular. Thank you, Musheer.
Perfect. So we'll take a deep dive, but before we do, the audience can also download the report from the GFF website. I'm going to briefly share the link with you. Very delighted. You can scan the QR code. We'll keep it on screen for a few minutes. As Inez, you could probably give a highlight of the report to the audience as we allow them to scan and download the report.
Sure. So the report basically shares things like what the gender gap is in access to fintech, which is about 27% at the moment, which is 3 times as large as it is in terms of access to a bank account or a mobile device or using the internet. So there's a large gap in the use of fintech by women, but by the same token, fintech is uniquely capable of breaking down the barriers that the incumbent financial services sector has found so difficult to do by giving women access to value-added services that are simple and easy to use and spend very little time in terms of transactions, can be in their homes actually transacting, and are uniquely able to also integrate non-financial services that is so important to building up the consumer base, and building up women's capability. So what we're doing is essentially outlining the business case, sharing some best practice about how fintechs have actually captured the female economy, and then profiling many different fintechs to give you ideas for how to adapt your own sales funnels to be gender intelligent.
Okay, so I'm going to now stop sharing the screen for now. I'll try bringing it back up as we go through the session. But we'll take a deep dive into the session, and we have another half an hour or so. So what I want to start off with is this question that is often raised about whenever gender comes into picture or a special segment of the market comes into the picture, is why do we think female consumers are underserved, right? And what are the main barriers to serving women, both on the demand side as well as the supply side? Why don't we start with you, Siddhika?
Sure. I mean, Musheer, when someone asks why the need, I think there are enough numbers out there to kind of, for me to not have to rattle off again. But at a very macro level, just at an India level, even if we don't go global and talk about India, like I said, we're 1.4 billion people. Even though the Jandan account has led to about 80% women having bank accounts, the percentage of those women who are actually using actively their bank account is lesser than 30%, right? Those are really sad numbers, which is why it is important to recognize that while we have products and we may be making them accessible, adoption is as important, because it's like saying, hey, let me give a geometry box to a school child and then he doesn't know how to use a divider. What's the point of giving the geometry box, right? I mean, it's just going to be there. What is really important both on the supply and the demand side is, while we're all trying to say, hey, let's serve different audiences and let's serve different targets of audiences, very important to understand and break down the women segment to say, hey, what's different? If this product is accessible, why is it not being adopted? And that's really what we're trying to do at Mahila Money. One of the first few products we launched was loan, for instance. And, it's very basic. Let's take something as simple as a KYC. Why does a KYC fail most women to even proceed? In India, there's a culture of changing your last name. In a lot of cultures, you change your first name. Now, that woman may have not updated her PAN card or her Aadhaar card. Does that mean that she shouldn't get a loan? So how do we therefore use technology, since we're fintechs, to overcome these problems? Similarly, there are a bunch of other very nuanced cultural, social barriers which do not allow the woman or do not enable the woman to really adopt these financial services faster. So on the supply side, let's kind of keep these social cultural contexts in mind. How do we build journeys? How do we build products within the regulated space which are a lot more friendlier for women in the context that she lives in? Let's not forget that context. On the demand side, there's a lot of awareness as well as a lot of knowledge to be built among this segment. And as you go from the highest income level to the lowest income level, that level of awareness is almost zinch. And again, we come back to the social construct. How many times in India, in a family dinner, do you have the man and woman talk equally passionately about their finances? Most likely, the finances are handled by the man, and the woman doesn't even know, hey, does she get anything if there is any calamity in the family? She probably doesn't. So, on the demand side, a lot of work to be done on both awareness as well as knowledge creation, and how do you implement that knowledge into accessing and adopting financial products.
Thanks. Inez, I want to come to you, right? You've been looking at not just from a fintech perspective, but just generally the female economy and how it's been underserved, in many cases unserved in certain markets. What do you see as the main reasons behind that?
Yeah, I mean, to build on Siddhika's points, on the supply side, we did some research with incumbents, right? So 30 CEOs of very large banks, and we kind of characterized their views on the female economy as basically a lack of awareness that there is a female economy. If there is a women's market per se, then all they need are pink products. Some kind of quick fix marketing initiative, that there's no gender data and that there's no business case. So there's this kind of whole kind of myopia about this idea that there is a women's market. And then that was mirrored very much in the fintech research we did in terms of a lack of awareness of the value of the female economy. And then on the demand side of the equation, we generally see women self-reporting less financial literacy levels. They generally have less, on the average, business experience. They're less networked, and so on. But that makes them very, very receptive to relevant information, to being networked within a community, which the fintechs can so ably do, and also to provide financial and business education. So there's a whole kind of customer cultivation that can happen, and that makes them very, very receptive customers, because on the plus side of all of this are their financial behaviors, which are essentially, they're great savers, they're a stable source of finance for incumbents and for fintechs. They're excellent borrowers. Their repayment rates from our members, they give us their data. They're better repairs in every single segment, in every single loan category, in every country. So they're great repairs. They're also the chief purchasing officers in their households, right? So, in the US, for instance, they make 85% of the decisions about where to bank are made by women. And that is getting mirrored across the globe, right? So they're buying for their households, and therefore they're an amazing customer base to cultivate. So all of the, let's say, the opportunity is there, and it's just about figuring out how to get into them and to be effective with them.
Bilaal, your thoughts on why women have been underserved throughout the last few decades, despite the change in technology bringing people, apparently, the gap closer, right?
Here, it's not a case of technology. It's a case of the social economics of a country, and I can speak only for South Africa, and what we face here is it has a lot to do with infrastructure and accessibility, not just to tech, but simple things like transportation. But it's also a mindset that we've inherited from previous generations, like Inez said, where you'd think that the male is the head of the household. But I think the world's becoming a bit more woke to who's actually in charge and who controls the purse strings, especially for the everyday expenses of a household. So there's a big change in the world at the moment going on there.
Thanks, Bilaal. I've just pulled up the report, and you can see how we're looking at how gender disaggregated data is important in terms of calculating various metrics. But I want to step into the opportunity costs and solutions to build gender intelligent sales funnels, right? And these are very important because at each stage of a sales funnel, there can be various leakages. But I'll hand this over now to Inez to take us through the gender intelligent sales funnel, in one sense? And can you give us some examples of the barriers and solutions to get more women through this stages and reduce the leakage in it?
Sure, thanks, Musheer. And if we go back to the 2020 report, which we did with you as well, and 168 fintechs reporting in a quantitative survey, of those that had sex disaggregated customer data, 64% had usage rates the same or higher for women. And of those that calculated lifetime value, 86% had it the same or higher for women, and 43% had the LTV actually higher for women. And I know that both of the fintechs on this panel have excellent data that can prove the business case. So then breaking that down by the sales funnel, we broke it into 5 different stages. So up front in the awareness stage, you know that there's a lack of familiarity often with the brand. There's a lack of relatable imagery and marketing campaigns. There's irrelevant content. There's some concern about cybersecurity, but essentially there's a lack of trust. And the trust issue is the same for incumbents as it is for fintechs. And so the solutions include deploying field agents like Time has done with Bilaal, has done that so effectively, really building that community and not doing the sell immediately, right? This is about creating trust and establishing that community. But if you do that, we've profiled fintechs that have done this, and they can increase their revenues by up to 12% on the awareness side. You go into consideration, and this is the onboarding process. And so what we find is simple fixes here. Like there is a fintech, I should say, in Mexico that looked at the terms and conditions. So this was the form that was mandated by the regulator that ran for 5 pages with deep kind of text that was legalese. Well, the women would read every single word and basically turn off the platform because they couldn't be bothered by the end of it. Whereas the man will go right to the end and click yes to all the terms and conditions. So that fintech, which was a credit and lending fintech, decided to lobby the regulator and get the language simplified. So simplifying the onboarding process, then moving to the approval. This is where we see bias in algorithms. For instance, for a credit fintech, how do you de-bias that? And that's very, very important, because what those algorithms are doing is they're weighting characteristics that women are systemically disadvantaged. So that could be in income levels, education levels, and so on. But they don't actually weight repayment behavior. So looking at the sales funnel by each stage and saying to yourself, well, why are there less women than men in this funnel? And basically double clicking on that and asking yourselves the smart questions about, okay, what's the problem here? What's the fix? Talking to some customers, talking to some field agents, and really understanding what the problem is. And then the solutions are actually pretty simple.
Thanks, Inez. I'm going to bring in Siddhika back into this. Mahila Money kind of has its origins from one of the most successful women community platforms in India, or for that matter, globally, right? Can you tell us more about why you decided to create a platform focused on women, firstly, and then how you're capturing this arbitrage opportunity of the women's market in the fintech space?
Yeah.
Through the sales funnel. Yeah.
So, very rightly said, and again, coming back to the community and trust factor, I think it's the number one globally, irrespective of social cultural context. This is just a global problem, and when we really started thinking about how do we want to place Mahila Money, obviously the community that Shiroz was able to build was the central point of how we wanted to build Mahila Money. And what we went ahead and did was, when you open the Mahila Money app, the very first thing that we've tried to do is say, hey, we're not going to have icons where we're anyways, the hypothesis is that the woman probably does not know what, a fixed deposit or a investment debt fund, or, these are very complicated words. So you actually open onto a community screen, and learning from the cooperatives like Amul and the larger communities across the world, we've gone ahead and put a community wall. Every day, at 12 o'clock bang, at 4 o'clock in the evening, and then through the day. There are live events that happen on the app. So you don't need to log into a Zoom app. You don't need to go anywhere else. You are literally in a community in the app. And what that does is it's a video on community. As soon as you therefore enter this conversation, this video, you have someone from Mahila Money sitting there and answering whatever questions you may have. So be it, hey, why should I take a loan? What is it going to do? When should I take a loan? How do I proceed further? When do I open a savings account? How do I get my PAN card, right? These are very real questions that women have. And by doing this through a video first lens in a community which is safe setting, because we've already done our checks of how do you only let women enter the platform, it really helps us move that much closer towards trust. And that is really key for us in building this community. We've seen this play out on Shiro's really nicely. And we have so many examples of women who've now come to us from their first loan to their fifth loan, and their businesses have grown 6 times, 7 times. And these are women in tier 2, tier 3 cities across the country. How do we really leverage the arbitrage? Very quickly to touch on that. A lot of these women, employment numbers aren't getting any better in the country. The one hope we have is how do we enable more women entrepreneurs and how do we make them employ more people, right? That's really the hope that we're betting on. And through this, what we realize is that women cannot and do not at this point have formal businesses. So the traditional banks don't see their businesses as a business loan. This is a woman who's a mehndi artist, she's a tutor, she's going home to home, door to door. She doesn't have a formal business PAN card. She doesn't have a GST registration. How do you serve this woman? How do you legitimize her business, right? And that's where we find a lot of our work happening in ensuring, hey, we have to legitimize her business. So we start small. We say, okay, let's build this trust factor. Let's observe your footprint, your ambition, your commitment to your business. From there, we help you take the next steps. And for that comes the entire inclusive, holistic offering that we have in our platform, which is everything from community to mentorship to tools and resources. That's really how we're, hoping that this segment that we want to really serve sticks with us.
Thanks, Siddhika. That's very insightful. And I'm building on top of that, right, Bilaal? You provide field ambassadors that the Time Bank uses in South Africa that are stationed beside the kiosks in retail stores, in supermarkets in particular, where Time tends to have their ATM, as it were, right, or the onboarding kiosk. Tell us why Time decided to put field ambassadors in and what their job is. Why do you think it's important to getting women to sign up for Time and with these ambassadors?
Well, let me start by laying context. Time Bank in South Africa is a digital bank, the first of its kind in South Africa. And Time Bank is only 3 years old. So Siddhika hit the nail on the head. It's a trust issue. Being new, a new type of bank in the country, and not having branches on brick and mortar buildings where customers can go to. Time Bank installed these kiosks with one of our retail partners in the FMCG space. And by design, Time Bank decided that although the kiosk is a self-service kiosk, which can give you a fully fledged bank account in under 5 minutes with a card with your name on it, although it's self-service, Time Bank by design put ambassadors next to each one of these kiosks. And the reason being, we're a new digital bank and we wanted to help the customer along in that 5-minute journey and ease the onboarding process. And there's a lot more that can be said about that. And I'm going to let you control me on time for that. But the short answer is the human element in the digital banking space still needed to exist in the beginning of the onboarding process.
And so this is why interesting, the phygital option as we speak about it, and more so nowadays in the metaverse element, but this is becoming important as we build out, right? So the combination of technology and touch is so important for women. What else do you think B2C fintech should think about in terms of their marketing mix for women customers? Accessibility with insights in the FMCG space or other things? What do you think are important there?
Yeah, I mean, so when you look at the marketing mix, there's a couple of things going on in there, right? But we need to consider place, position, process, and even product. Product plays a huge part in it. Now, although Time Bank's product offering, let me talk about the buy now, pay later product offering, which they call More Time, which is you take your product now and you pay it off in 3 equal pieces. Although that's built for everyone, for the masses, it particularly speaks to the female customer because they are buying, especially in the FMCG and fashion space, they are buying the groceries, they are buying the clothing for the kids in the household. And that product, what we've seen is a huge uptake in from our female customers. In actual fact, 70% of all our buy now, pay later signups have been from females. And that's testament to where we are in the country and how our females are dealing with the banking of the household.
Sorry, 3 years still not pressing the mute button appropriately. Inez, I'm going to come back to you. You did mention about one of the Latin American startups who are using the gender intelligent sales funnel, as it were. Are there any others that you may want to highlight in this conversation from use cases?
Yeah, no, sure. I mean,
just two wonderful guests. Yeah,
I know. I mean, just to build on what Bilaal was talking about, we've been, it's not usually a product design. It's what really works for women, right? You have to solve a need that's immediate. You have to make it simple. You have to understand what she wants. But women want solutions to their life moments. They don't want to be sold a product. So Time hit the nail on the head there. 71% of the customers for that product are women. If I go back 20 years to microfinance in Colombia, why are 70% of your clients are women? This is a big MFI, very successful, because we keep our average loan size at $600, and that's where women are. So it's about really understanding the market. What are some standouts in this report? Obviously, apart from Mahila Money and Shiro's and Time, I think one of the new kids on the block this year is Tribe Fintech. This is a fintech startup that really offers banks a white label solution to providing women with a community, with business and financial education, all the while on a stack that can really track what's working, what's not in terms of her business growth and all her consumer behavior, banking behavior. So Tribe Fintech is definitely a standout and one to watch. We really love also Lakshmi, which is a wealth tech in India that targets mass market Indian women. When I say mass market, I'm talking about women who, for instance, are nurses or teachers. So that kind of salary level, where a very, very few of them would have any kind of investment products or access to any kind of investment products. So there you're seeing a big, well-known wealth management company with a spin-off that's targeting women very successfully, and also borrowing from the playbook of Mahila Money, which is about building that community and building that trust. So if you go to the report, you'll see a lot of different fintechs profiled. I will say that Time and Lakshmi both won the hackathon. We have a hackathon every year. This year's hackathon closes tomorrow in terms of applications, September 21st, midnight GMT. It's a really good hackathon because what we do is we not only partner with some incredible potential partners for fintechs like Citi and HSBC, etc., but we actually provide mentoring and coaching from our network of incumbents that have really been very strong on the female economy. So I encourage you to apply to that hack, and we're also, of course, in partnership with the Singapore FinTech Festival on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Inez. And now, we've spoken about why are they underserved. We've spoken about how a sales funnel can be built. But there's a very important element in the fintech world that is the role of investors, right? Especially if you're venture-backed or you're a pure startup, you do need investment funds to build your proposition. And that role has become dominant, given that in many cases, angel investors or VCs can also not can also be, are largely men, which may impact their decision making when it comes to investing in women. We also know that women founders tend to raise more in terms of returns than male founders, and this is proven research that we've got. But I want to come to Siddhika. You've been part of Shiro's and now been building Mahila Money with some tremendous numbers. Can you tell us what criteria investors should consider elemental in their determination of whether to invest in a fintech or not, right? And is it profitability? Is it lifetime value? And do you get your investors asking you for estimates to be disaggregated by gender when you are doing the proposition?
So, well, Musheer, we're very lucky. Our entire base is just women, so no one asks us for disaggregated data. But to be on the side of fintechs, and what do investors really look for? We've been asked all kinds of questions, everything from profitability to CAC to LTV. All of those questions are important, and I don't think that they should be discarded. But very, very importantly, something that we at Mahila Money and Shiros are very careful about is the sustainability with which we're kind of creating and building this business. And what I mean to say is, when you look at a regulated space, financial service is not an unregulated space. It's a very hardcore regulated space. So when you look at that, and you look at the traditional players versus the fintechs, clearly there's something not working about burning cash and very high CACs and cross promotion. So what we're trying to do is learn a little, respect the fact that there have been legacy institutions around for the last centuries. So we're learning the core of how do you build from day one a revenue generating business, and how do you really scale that in the most beautifully sustainable manner that kind of takes you forward. So we're in also a very, very interesting position, because women, once they trust you, it is really, really a very sticky customer audience, right? So therefore, the cost of serving them again and again really, really decreases. From that perspective, I just think when we're building our fintechs, we don't always need to have very high CACs. I think we can maintain that, but just smartly look at how do you retain that customer. And for that, go back to design principles, go back to the principles of how do you build with a clean sheet. If you do that, I don't see why any investor wouldn't back you.
Thanks. Bilaal, in your experience, what are your thoughts in terms of what ecosystem can be mobilized for championing the female economy?
So again, will refer back to what Time Bank has done. Right in the beginning of the sales funnel, we've placed human beings next to the kiosk to help with this onboarding process. One of the mandates that Time Bank gave us a good couple of years back was that half of our staff complement must be female, right? And it wasn't a challenge at all. We've actually ended up with a female complement of 72% of all our staff are female. Now, just to put it into perspective, over the last 3 years, we've created meaningful jobs for about 3,500 of these, what we call ambassadors, right? Another mandate that Time Bank gave us was that these staff that we're going to employ must be between the ages of 20 and 30 and must come from a previously disadvantaged background or be unemployed, right? So with those targets in mind, we've hired 70% of our staff contingent is female. Interestingly enough, 80% of them are between the ages of 20 and 30. 70% of them are sole breadwinners in households of over 3 or more. So this just gives you an idea of what kind of human being we're placing next to the kiosk. Now, Time Bank by design has understood that one of the target markets for the business is females in South Africa, previously from the underbanked or unbanked sector. And the intention there was to put a female at point of sale, to sell to a female, therefore building the trust very early in the relationship before we hand over that customer's journey into the next stage would be communicating with them via the app or internet banking or the call center, which is manned by human beings as well. So back to the question, that ecosystem starts with women promoting and selling to women, building the trust right in the beginning.
Thanks, Bilaal. Inez, coming to you, we speak about investors, we speak about ecosystems. What do you think will drive investors to consider investing in fintechs that are impacting the female economy? And what role do regulators and others play in this?
My view is that
we already have a few questions waiting for you because we wanted to do it at the last part of the session. So we have like 3-4 minutes to end this session. So whenever you're ready, we'll take those questions.
Sure. Once Inez is done, we'll get to the questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it's simply, frankly, is to ask the right questions. Why aren't there more women in the decision-making roles of the fintechs? Why aren't there more women in the customer base of the fintechs? Just ask the question. Most investors want to do good. There's a lot of impact investors out there. So we think it's about awareness. We think it's about the business case. But I don't think you can regulate for it. I think we need to create within the community champions like we have on this call that can demonstrate the business case and create a buzz and get more investors looking at it.
Thanks, Inez. And Amna, I guess that's the thing. Let's see what are the right questions being asked by the audience. Would you like to share some, please?
Sure. Firstly, I would like to thank speakers for sharing such insightful inputs in this session. And I would also like to thank our moderator, Mr. Ahmed, for moderating this session so well. And coming on to the questions, here I am posting one. You can see in the chat box section. If you want, I can read it for you.
Yes, please go ahead. You can go ahead and read that. Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. What is the men versus women ratio in terms of contributing in fintech?
Bilaal or Inez, would you like to take that? Male versus female ratio when it comes to most fintechs that you encountered.
Do you mean female founders? The percentage of fintechs that are female founders? Is that the question?
Nothing about the users. That's what I think it was.
Oh, the users. Okay, well, we know there's a 27% gender gap. In other words, for every 100 men using fintech, we have 72 women using fintech. So we need to close that because fintechs are really offering a value proposition that is very compelling for women. But then on the investment side, less than 2% of VC goes to female founders in general in the world beyond fintech. And there's not enough fintech female founders. So we need to get more women involved.
And it's also that self-fulfilling spiral, right? Where you start serving men, then it becomes the dominant service that you have. Bilaal, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk from a consumption perspective. TimeBank currently has 5.4 million clients, acquired clients over the last 3 years. And we're sitting with a 54% split in favor of women within our client base.
Thanks. That's very encouraging. I know we are up to time, so I'll give the last question, Syed, which is: do women face challenges or disadvantages in building careers in fintech or building fintechs themselves?
Really hoping not. I'm right here. And no, I don't think so. I don't think any career is a gendered career. I would hope to believe that that's not the case. And be it a man or a woman, if you put your mind to it, you should be able to do it. So I strongly believe that there are no disadvantages, so to say. As long as you know what you want to do, you go do it.
Thanks. The report can be downloaded from the link that you can see. I want to once again thank all of our three eminent panelists, Siddhika, Inez, and Bilaal, for joining us and giving this wonderful insights. And I also want to thank Gopal Krishnan, for writing the foreword and for all of the contributors from FinStep and the Alliance in contributing building the report. So thank you, everybody. And back to Amna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. With that, we would bring this session to the end. And it was a fantastic discussion. And we are honored to have such speakers and moderator with us at Global Fintech Fest 2022. Once again, thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we would like to thank our partners, team partner WhatsApp, co-powered by Amazon Pay, spend management partner Encash in association with Perfuse, payments partner Cash-Free Payments, CEO's dinner partner HSBC, country partner UK FCO, Kingdom of Netherlands, credit score partner Paisa Bazaar, conventional commerce partner Carix, P2P lending partner Faircent, VIP lounge Cred, InsurTech partner Cover Genius. Thank you for staying tuned. We will join you in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Great having
Bye,
you.
Musheer.
See
you soon.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great evening.
Brilliant. You too. Bye-bye.